In today's podcast, you'll learn about the furniture and home improvement store Ikea. Whether you're a huge fan of shopping there, or maybe you've never even heard of Ikea, you'll learn lots of new vocabulary in this episode of
Aprender Inglés with Reza and Craig.
Hello and a very warm welcome to all of you, especially if you're a new listener. My name's Craig.
And my name's Reza.
And with nearly 60 years of teaching between us, we'll help you improve your English and take it to the next level. How are you doing this week, mate?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Despite the hot weather, it's nice to not have too many classes. We're recording this summer, so work slackens off a bit. That means there's less and less and less. What about you? Are you still working full out, or have you got less work than the rest of the year?
I'm not feeling as stressed as I have been in previous months, but I am working full out. I've got 2 conversation classes at 2 different levels during the week, from Monday to Thursday, and classes on Sunday, conversation classes, and private students. So I'm pretty busy in July, yeah.
So at Sunday, do you still have time to go to church a couple of times a day?
I have been to church 5 or 6 times in my life, so I'm not a regular church goer. I've only been to churches for marriages, christenings, that kind of thing.
And how many times have you been to Ikea?
More than I've been to a church. I've prayed at the doors of Ikea more times than I've actually been to church. We want to thank Carmen, friend of the show from Malaga, for the idea for today's podcast. It's a good idea to talk about Ikea. I think many countries are aware of this store. But we've spoken about DIY and home improvement before, haven't we?
Yes, so we won't go too much into that vocabulary because it's already done. Have a look at the link we put in the show notes to episode 182. So if you simply type in inglespodcast.com/ and then the number of the episode 182, you will go to the episode about DIY and home improvement. But this episode is more focused specifically on Ikea.
That's right. And it's a very popular store. In fact, we're recording this podcast in 2025, and as of 2025, there are approximately 483 Ikea stores around the world, operating in 63 different countries. But just in case perhaps you've never heard of Ikea, Reza's going to give you a short description.
So Ikea, and it's usually spelled with capital letters, IKEA, is a big, very big multinational company that sells ready-to-assemble furniture. So it hasn't been assembled, it hasn't been put together, but it's ready for you to do that when you get home with it. And also kitchen appliances, cookers, fridges, things like that, at affordable prices. Affordable. If something's affordable, you have enough money to pay for it. It started in Sweden in 1943. Strange date for a company to start in the middle of the Second World War. Not many companies opened then, except companies for war production. But Ikea is an exception. And it has since expanded worldwide. And in Ikea stores, there are well, basically the store is like a large warehouse with a kind of shop attached. It's designed like that. So it's a warehouse with a showroom where you see the products put out nicely displayed, where customers can see the furniture setups, the installations, if you like. They can get inspiration, and then they pick up the products like beds, tables, chairs, lights, kitchen tools. They pick them up afterwards in the kind of warehouse part. Would you say that's more or less a good description?
Yeah, that's right. So first of all, you look at the showroom, you can see the furniture in place, you can see it assembled or put together would be the phrasal verb. They put the furniture together so you can see what it looks like. You walk through the store, you buy what you want, and then you collect it in the warehouse and you see these displays of kitchens and bedrooms and dining rooms, etc. And you can even eat Swedish food because very often they have a cafeteria, a small restaurant, and you can eat Swedish delicacies like meatballs, for example, cinnamon rolls, and go and have a nice coffee after you've been shopping.
Speaking of the cafeteria, I have a tip for anybody who is a plane spotter. A plane spotter is someone who just likes looking at planes in real life. The cafeteria of Ikea in Belfast is very near the city airport. And not the international airport, but the one in the city, near the city centre called George Best City Airport.
Domestic flights?
They have a few international flights as well, but mostly domestic. And Ikea is really near. And the cafeteria has a fantastic view of the airport and the runway. And you get to sit really, really close to the planes and see them come and go while you're having your Swedish meatballs or cinnamon roll and a cup of coffee in Ikea. And it's not very expensive. Go into the airport if you like, but the price is going to multiply by 5 and your view won't be as good. So if you're a plane spotter, sit in Ikea in Belfast and watch the planes come and go.
That's a very good tip. In the cafeteria there in Ikea, if you go in to buy a coffee or a cinnamon roll, do you have to assemble the chair before you sit down and the table?
No, I think they're already pre-assembled.
Oh, that's good. That's good to hear.
And also the meatballs, thankfully, are also pre-assembled.
Well, I've heard that the restaurants there are very, very clean and hygienic. In fact, you could describe them as being squeaky clean. Squeak is the noise a mouse makes. Ee, ee, ee. So that's one meaning of the word squeak. And if something is so clean that maybe when you rub your finger or you touch it, you hear the ee, 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 it's really clean. So the adjective squeaky to describe something that's clean just means extremely clean. And apparently you have discovered, I think, Reza, that Ikea has not always been squeaky clean as far as its reputation is concerned. Is that true?
Well, I discovered this about 10 years ago. It's not new news. It's old news, as we were talking about in our oxymoron episode a while ago.
Last week, yeah.
Yeah, this is not new news at all, but it's just recently that IKEA have decided to put their money where their mouth is. I'll talk about that in a minute. The problem is they admitted, so it's not just speculation, IKEA have admitted to subcontracting out some production of the things they sell to prison camps. A long time ago, in what was the former communist East Germany, the German Democratic Republic, now defunct, during the Cold War era.
What does defunct mean?
Defunct means it no longer exists. But if you recall, if you're my age, or if you're younger than me and you've read history books, there used to be two Germanys after the Second World War, the West and the East. And the East was a dictatorship. It was a communist dictatorship. IKEA had some of their furniture produced there, or some of the parts for the furniture, I should say, despite knowing that forced labor was used in the production. So prisoners were forced to work there and they didn't receive any money, but IKEA used them because it was cheap. So recently, I've read that this is just from last year, they recognized that maybe this may not have been a wise thing to do. They admitted it a long time ago, but now they've decided to pledge funds, that means to promise to give money, to compensate the victims of the former dictatorship in East Germany, people who suffered in the prison system. And they partly suffered from being forced to make things from IKEA. So that's a bit of restitution.
Yeah, not a squeaky clean reputation, we could say.
It doesn't get any better. In fact, it gets a bit worse. If you're thinking, oh, so maybe the founder, the person who created IKEA, Ingvar Kamprad, maybe you're thinking, okay, he must have been a communist sympathizer. Don't be too hasty to come to that conclusion.
Hasty?
Hasty means fast. yes, he did collaborate with the communist dictatorship of East Germany, but a long time before that, during the Second World War, he'd been a very active member of the Swedish Nazi Party, who definitely aren't communist or weren't communist. And he still even supported far-right anti-Semitic politicians for quite a while after the war finished. That's quite hard to explain, but that's his history.
It is hard to explain, but here's a question for you, Reza. I mean, should you hold a company responsible for that sort of thing? I'll give you another couple of examples. Hugo Boss, the very popular German fashion house, they used to make Nazi uniforms during the Second World War. Volkswagen used to make engines for tanks during the Second World War.
Mercedes as well. Mercedes also.
Mercedes also. So the question is, do you stop buying a product because of the history of the company?
No, not at all. But it's just that
It's an interesting fact. I agree.
I've bought things in Ikea, and I intend to continue buying them there. But it is interesting. What I find most interesting is that the founder of Ikea has collaborated with both Nazis and communists. That's quite bizarre.
That is interesting. Let's get to some vocabulary for you connected to IKEA. Obviously, IKEA sells furniture. That's their main business, and furniture is an uncountable noun. So there's no S on that word. We don't say furnitures. We say a piece of furniture or some furniture. I need to get some new furniture for my flat.
So we said at the beginning of this episode that they had flat-packed furniture for sale. So it's flat-packed, flat. It's flat.
That's easy for you to say. Flat-packed.
Flat-packed. Not easy at all, is it?
Lots of consonants there.
Flat-packed furniture. Woof. So it's not pre-assembled. In other words, it isn't bulky. If there's bulk, B-U-L-K, that means there's a lot of something which takes up a lot of space. So if it's flat-packed, it doesn't take up a lot of space. It's flat. It's all put tightly together. And this is to reduce the transport cost as well as making it easier to carry. So you assemble it yourself, and I've assembled a few IKEA things. And as you know, you become attached. You become fond of the things that you put effort into making. About 20 years ago, I made an IKEA desk for my room in Belfast, which still functions perfectly well. And I'm really proud of it, actually. Have you made anything that you're really proud of from IKEA?
Well, it's called the IKEA effect. It's the idea that if you assemble it, you put it together, then you're more attached emotionally to the product. So a lot more if you're sweating to put the furniture together yourself, and maybe it takes you an afternoon or maybe a whole weekend to make this piece of furniture, then you feel more connected to it, more than if you just bought the entire thing in a shop. And I think that's true. I remember when I was young, my dad had a very old wooden desk, a writing desk, and it was in very bad condition, so I decided to restore it. And I sanded the wood down very carefully for months, actually.
What's to sand?
To sand is to take some sandpaper, which is paper with glass or sand on it. And when you rub it, when you move it backwards and forwards on wood, it removes the top surface and makes it very smooth. So I sanded the desk, and then I cleaned it, and then I varnished it. Varnish is like a clear paint. And it took me months, and I was so pleased with the result. And I did feel very attached emotionally to the desk because I felt like there was part of me and many, many hours inside the finished product. But I just want to focus on one pronunciation point with that flat-packed furniture that Reza said. And I've noticed with some of my Spanish students that it's quite difficult for Spanish speakers to have those two consonants together. If you have a consonant at the end of the verb, like pack, and then you add the ed, it's a t sound, a t sound at the end. So it's packed. So you have to move the tongue across your teeth to get that sound. Flat packed, packed. That's quite difficult for people to say. You have to practice it. Practice moving your tongue across your teeth to get that kt, kt sound.
Another word which is a compound word, that means it's more than one word to form a new word, like flat packed, is ready to assemble. So if something is ready to assemble, it is, as you would expect, not assembled yet, but it has been prepared in a way that you can, in theory, quickly assemble it. So IKEA's flat pack furniture is ready to assemble. All you need are a few tools and you can assemble it when you like.
We mentioned at the beginning of the episode another podcast episode we've done in the past about DIY, which is an abbreviation of do it yourself when you're creating things with your hands at home. So do it yourself is a way to build furniture, and there are some tools that you need. For example, you need screws. A screw is a small metal thing that holds objects together, and there's a thread on a screw which is like a spiral shape, so that when you turn it, it goes into the wood and it joins and holds the wood together. And to put the screw into the wood, you need a tool called a screwdriver. So screws, screwdrivers, very common tools with IKEA products.
And nothing like a good screw, is there, Craig?
There's nothing like a good screw.
Yes, I know as a fact that'll be edited, but I just couldn't resist saying it anyway. Also, oh dear.
Well, actually, we can explain that in next week's episode, which is mild swear words.
Yeah, screw you.
Thank you very much.
Also in mild
Screw you too,
not
mate.
Easy for me to say. When we talk about mild swear words, we could also put nuts as well, but let's stick to its meaning here. So nuts are a bit like screws, but they don't have that curly, windy bit around the edge. You don't screw them in. Nuts, you simply hammer in. Isn't that right?
Not really.
No. Enlighten me. I don't know much about tools. How do you insert a nut?
Well, a nut usually goes together with a bolt. So it's two pieces that go together. So it's the bolt that's similar to the screw.
That's it. Yeah.
If you turn it round, it won't go into a piece of wood by itself. It doesn't have a point at the end. It goes through a hole in the wood, and then it's attached on the other side by a nut, which screws onto the bolt. So the bolt has a thread, and the nut has a thread, and they join together by turning and then tightening so that the two objects don't move, and you join them together.
The thread is like the curly line around the edge.
Exactly. It's difficult to explain, isn't it? Nuts and bolts and screws.
So now I think, because you've explained it well, now I think I know the difference between a nut and a washer. So a nut goes on the other side of the wood, whereas the washer goes
between the nut and the wood.
And the wood doesn't. Oh, that's a washer, isn't it?
And that,
right.
and that protects the wood.
Got you. Okay, that's the difference between a nut and a washer. Okay.
Now, you can use a screwdriver to tighten furniture, or very common with IKEA products, you sometimes get an Allen key inside your box. And an Allen key is a piece of metal that will fit into the top, or we say the head of the bolt or screw, and you just turn it around and it gets tighter and keeps the furniture in place.
You said fit into, not fit around.
The Allen key fits into a shaped hole in the head of the bolt or the screw.
Ah, so I didn't know that, but I think you've kind of anticipated and answered my question then. I was going to ask the difference between an Allen key and a spanner. A spanner fits around something.
Correct.
Whereas an Allen key fits into it.
Correct.
Okay, I didn't realize.
An Allen key is often shaped like an L. So it has a right angle and it's shaped like an L, and sometimes it's hexagonal or it has different sides. Then we've got nails, which are small metal pieces. Now, they don't have a thread. They're smooth. A carpenter will often use nails, and the tool you need to put the nail into the wood is a hammer. So you pick up a hammer. It's usually made of wood or sometimes metal, and it has a metal head or top to it, and you hit the nail and it goes into the wood. So you nail pieces of wood together. Although with IKEA products, it's more common to use screws and nuts and bolts, isn't it?
You don't often need a hammer, do you? Which is the object that you hit a nail with. But you probably will need either a spanner or an Allen key or something like that.
Exactly. Let's take a quick break here because I know you listen to this podcast to take your English to the next level. But what about your speaking? Is your fluency improving? Are you happy with your speaking skills? My conversation course focuses on making you a more confident and more fluent English speaker. You'll join me and a small group of motivated students, and we'll meet on Zoom and have topical discussions, role plays, debates, and presentations that will expand your vocabulary and help you express yourself effectively in English. So be proactive and take the first step towards becoming a confident and fluent English speaker. Send me an email today to craig@inglespodcast.com and I'll send you details of the next online conversation course. Thanks for listening. Now let's get back to the podcast. Now, where do all these pieces of furniture get stored? Well, we mentioned before that you've got the showroom area of Ikea, and then you've got the warehouse part of Ikea where you collect your furniture. And a warehouse is a very large building that you use to keep stuff in. So it can be a food warehouse, it can be a furniture warehouse, any huge building that's protected from the weather, and you use it to keep things.
There's another important use of showroom. So a showroom is where something that's being sold is showed. You can see it there. So it takes up quite a lot of space.
Like a car showroom.
Exactly. So that's the other common use. So a furniture showroom, like part of Ikea. They also have the part which is the warehouse. But then where you buy a car is a car showroom. Sorry, Spanish speakers, 99% of you, it's not concessionary. That's an adjective. I know the Spanish word is concesionario or something like that. It's a car showroom where you see the cars.
Yeah, you can go and touch the cars and feel the product and see what it's like in person. Now, one thing about Ikea is the layout of the store, which is very, very clever. If you go into an Ikea store, you will be walking around different areas of the store, almost like you're walking in a maze. A maze is a place where you can easily get lost, but you have to find your way out of the maze. So lots of very narrow passageways and turn right and turn left and go back where you came from. It's very difficult to get out of a maze. And in a similar way, you feel like trapped in Ikea for years sometimes when I'm walking around with my wife, like, how do we get out of this place? Well, it's designed in a way that takes you on a journey through the store so that you look at all of the products and you don't miss anything. So it's a very clever way of designing the store so that as you're walking through it, everything is on display to you.
Craig, would you describe Ikea as a retailer or a wholesaler?
I think it's a cross between the two. I think it's a mixture. A retailer sells directly to the end consumer, the customer, the person who's buying the product, and maybe they'll pay a little bit of a higher price because the retailer is selling small amounts, whereas a wholesaler sells to a business and they tend to sell in bulk, which means a lot of product at the same time. So because you're kind of buying from a warehouse, it's not exactly a shop, is it? What do you think?
I would go along with what you say. It's kind of a mixture. Yeah. It looks in parts like a retailer, but in other parts it looks like a wholesaler, particularly the bit where the warehouse is, that looks more like a wholesaler. Kind of like a hybrid, a mixture.
So I've mentioned the fact that I really don't enjoy Ikea very much. What's your opinion of it? Do you like shopping there? You've been there before, haven't you?
I'm not a great shopper in general, and I've never ever been to an Ikea on my own, and I've never been voluntarily of my own free will. I've always gone.
Me neither.
Because I've had to go. But I discovered something a bit late in life. I wish I had discovered it a long time ago, but I only discovered it about 10 years ago. I foolishly, naively thought, if you want to impress the ladies, always offer to take them out to a nice restaurant, go to the theatre, a concert, yes, maybe, or take them to Ikea, I discovered. A lot of women will be over the moon, I've discovered. Not all, but if I offer to spend the afternoon, much to my disappointment for me, but I will pretend I'm enjoying it, and take them to Ikea, and hopefully they are very pleased in return.
Yeah, would you fancy some meatballs, my darling? Let's go. Let's go to Ikea for the afternoon.
Oh, look at that bedroom furniture, isn't it lovely? Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit, Reza, about the actual features of the furniture, the design, because IKEA furniture tends to be very minimalist, a very simple and clean design style. Is that your kind of taste? Do you like minimalism?
I'm not obsessed with it, but I do like it. I'd rather have minimalism than the opposite, which would be clutter. Clutter. That is not IKEA style. Because IKEA is from Sweden, and generally it seems to be that in the Nordic, in the Scandinavian countries, they like minimalism. They like things to be functional and just what you need and no more, no extra clutter.
I agree. Very plain furniture. Even the clothes I noticed when I was there, it's very dark colours, nothing very bright, no patterns on the shirts or the clothes. Very conservative looking, simple, basic products, and very functional, which is another important adjective. If furniture is functional, then it's designed for practical use. It works, it does what it says it does, and there are no, let's say, bells and whistles. That it's not too complicated. It's very functional furniture.
Yes, and very, we could say functional / because it's more or less the same thing, practical. For example, I have an IKEA desk, which also has drawers at the side of it, and the top, the bit where I put my computer, folds up and down. And it's where I have most of my classes. If I'm having a class at home online, I open up the top. It has a little support under it. There I put my computer, my books, I give my class. When the class is over, I fold it down and it doesn't take up any space. That's so IKEA, and it's very functional and very practical.
Are you talking about that white desk that we use sometimes for podcasting when I record at your place?
Exactly.
That's very nice. That's very practical. Yeah, I like
IKEA.
I like that. I like the drawers in the side where you can store things. It's very clever.
Yeah, every single little space is put to use by IKEA.
It's also compact because it folds up. If something folds up, it becomes smaller. So it's small and space saving. So there we've got 3 adjectives you could connect to IKEA furniture. Minimalist, it's functional, it's compact.
Another clever thing they do is to make things modular. So they're in modules, they're made of separate pieces, but those pieces can be combined in different ways. You'll find, for example, parts of shelves, but you can combine different colors, different designs. It doesn't all have to look the same. You can mix 3 or 4 different colors. You can have your lower shelves with a bit more space between them than the upper shelves, or not, as you wish. It's all designed in a way so that different elements can be used in different pieces of furniture, which is very clever. It's modular.
Some people, not me, but some people might describe the furniture as being ergonomic. ERGONOMIC. All of these words, as usual, in the show notes at inglespodcast.com/581. What's ergonomic? Well, it means that the furniture has been designed for comfort and efficiency. Efficiency, okay, but I'm not really sure that IKEA furniture is particularly comfortable, especially the beds and the chairs. What do you think, Reza?
Oh, yes. My advice is, this is my own personal opinion, buy most things, pretty much anything you like in IKEA, We could argue about the chairs, but beds, no way. I've tried every single bed that Ikea made at that time when I was buying a bed. None of them were comfortable. Also, their mattresses, that's the thing you put on the bed, which is soft, maybe has springs on it, the flexible bit. None of them were comfortable. If I were you, I would think twice about buying a bed or a mattress in Ikea if it's really important for you to be comfortable. If, like me, you have a little bit of arthritis in your joints, Ikea beds are not for you, believe me.
I would agree with that. And I'm also, generally speaking, not keen on Ikea furniture in general. I don't find it particularly good quality. I think it used to be, but maybe the quality of the furniture differs from country to country. I have a feeling that in some countries, the quality of the furniture might be better than it is in Spain, but I don't know about that.
Well, maybe you could say, bring back those forced labor East German prisoners who made it. Good old German quality, you can't beat it. Even if they were forced to make it under duress, boy, they made good stuff.
I don't think that would be very popular. Do you remember, Reza, a few weeks ago we spoke about arts and crafts, and we said that we had both made pencil cases and ashtrays and pottery at school, and that we really spent a lot of time and we really liked making them and felt quite proud of the result. So are you keen on assembling and putting together your own furniture, or would you prefer to get the furniture sent to you already pre-assembled and ready to use? Do you think you're attached more to the furniture when you put it together?
I think you're definitely attached more to it, but that doesn't mean I insist on making all my own furniture. The bottom line is price. And let's be honest, IKEA, because it's not pre-assembled, because it's flat packed and you have to assemble it, it's nearly always going to be a lot cheaper. And that's the bottom line, isn't it?
Just make sure that there are no screws missing, which sometimes happens. And another piece of advice, if you are going to assemble and put together your IKEA furniture, I would suggest investing in a battery-powered screwdriver, because there are lots of screws, and by the end, your hands, your wrist going to be very, very tired. So it's much easier with one of those battery-operated screwdrivers. And read the instructions. Don't forget to read the instruction.
I follow the instructions very carefully.
By the letter.
By the letter. I don't understand people who say, "Oh no, I'll just do it." I think, no. If you jump just one stage, the whole thing might just fall to pieces.
Literally.
You really have to do. I found out something very interesting about IKEA furniture compared to other stuff. So generally speaking, I think I've had good customer service from them. And that included the time when I got something and there were literally only about one or two screws or bolts missing or nuts, I can't remember. And I thought, oh, what a pain. I tell you what, I'll go to my local hardware store, a shop that sells screwdrivers, nails,
nuts and bolts.
And we're talking about, maximum price, £1 or £2, probably less, to get the missing stuff, because I can't be bothered driving all the way back to IKEA. I came in and I showed the guy and he immediately started chuckling, as the type of guy who works in a hardware store will do. He went, IKEA? Yeah, mate. I said, yeah, how did you know? Oh. He had his own chuckle. He said, you won't get them anywhere. I said, you don't have this type of screw or bolt? He said, no. Do you know what? He said, listen, mate, let me save you a lot of time. You are not going to get them anywhere in Belfast. I don't care if you go to London. You're not going to find them. Only IKEA make these specific sizes and specifications on purpose. I said, you're joking me. He said, believe me. I didn't believe him. I tried 2 or 3 other shops in Belfast and they all said the same. So I had no choice but to go back to IKEA, tell them what was missing, show them. They said, okay, we'll get that sent out to you. So I had to wait about 5 days for about 3 screws to be sent to me from IKEA. So they did send them, but it was very frustrating to have to wait for them. Something which cost about 50p, less than a £5, but nobody sells them. So if you didn't know, IKEA's nuts and bolts or screws are not universal. You can't find them in hardware stores. I discovered the hard way. Did you know that?
No, I didn't, but it doesn't surprise me. So they only make their own nuts and bolts and screws. Who would have thought? Now it's your turn to practice your English. Do you have IKEA stores in your country? And what do you think about them? Do you have IKEA furniture? Was it easy to put together and assemble your furniture? Let us know what you think about flat packed furniture. You can send us your voice message as usual. That's our preferred method of communication. Go to speakpipe.com, speakpipe.com/Ingles podcast, and you can leave your message there.
Or if you prefer, you could send us an email right to craig@inglespodcast.com or belfastreza@gmail.com.
And if you're a Spanish speaker, and we know many of you are, and you would like to improve your English with free and paid resources, visit the Mansion Ingles website at mansioningles.com. And for paid products, you can browse the online store at store.mansioningles.net.
As always, a big thank you to our Patreon supporters. That's Patreon. And if you join the Patreon program and make a small donation to the podcast, as a way of saying thank you, you will get instant access to the audio transcriptions of the podcast. And as a little added extra, the chance to sign up for live Zoom chats with Craig so that you can further practice your speaking. If you're interested, have a look at the link in the show notes. It's patreon.com/Ingles podcast.
Unfortunately, we don't have time to thank all of our lovely Patreon supporters individually. The list is just too long, but we would like to say hello and thank you to our latest Patreon supporters, and they are Victor Gutierrez and Priscilla Benavides. Thank you to you two, Priscilla and Victor, and to everybody who is supporting this show on Patreon.
Craig, what are we going to talk about in next week's episode?
Next week, we've decided to talk about mild swear words that won't offend people too much. Now, bad words in a language, swear words, they are part of English, so we've decided to speak about them because in natural conversation you'll hear them and maybe you might want to use them. So join us next week for some swear words that won't offend too much. Until then, thank you for listening this week. We hope you've enjoyed the podcast. Until next time, it's goodbye from me.
And it's bye-bye from me.
The music in this podcast is by Pitts. The track is called See You Later.